It looks like after the fumbling of the release of Anthem, Electronic Arts are gonna make some major changes in how they release games, and they even went as far as to say the old way of releasing games doesn't work anymore. We'll talk all about that coming out of their Q4 fiscal year 2019 financial results conference, and that in that quarter, Anthem was expected to be one of the biggest game releases, so we'll talk all about that. One game that has delivered, and even so, I would go as far as to say exceeded expectations commercially, is Days Gone. That game is doing incredibly well commercially, even though the critical reception has been a little bit mixed. Days Gone debut has outpaced God of War's in Japan. That's pretty incredible. Now, obviously, Days Gone is not going to sell more than God of War. That would be an incredible feat for a new IP like this. The fact that the game is doing very well in Japan says a lot, so we'll talk about that. Also, E3 is coming up and the Kinda Funny Games Showcase has been dated. Want to talk a little bit about that and what you guys can expect coming out of that. More on that at the end of this video. First up, Electronic Arts has been in shambles recently, and PC Gamer has a really good rundown of their financial results conference. That Anthem was supposed to be the big talking point. That was their major release in the final quarter of fiscal year 2019. Do bear in mind that fiscal year 2019 ended on March 31st, 2019. So just understand what's the difference between fiscal year and your regular calendar year, and here's what they said. Quote, "The reality is it's not just an EA challenge, it's an industry-wide challenge." That's coming from CEO Andrew Wilson. "You're moving from what was initially a BioWare game to 40 to 80 hours of offline play plus 100 or 200 or 300 hours of elder game that happens with millions of other players at scale online." They noted that in the West, however, major publishers have stuck with older conventions of promoting a game, a drip feed approach to marketing to build up the appetite and excitement for the game that leads straight into release. Wilson continued by saying, "As games have gotten bigger, that system isn't working as well as it has done in years gone by. So what you should expect from us is that it's not just about changing the development process in the game, it's not just about changing the QA process in the game, although both of those things are being changed dramatically inside our organization right now, but it also comes down to changing how we launch games. You should expect that we'll start to test things out like soft launches, the same things you see in the mobile space right now." And just to add my 2 cents, EA definitely wants to get into the mobile space. That was made very clear last year's E3, where they promoted Battlefield 5 and transitioned from that into a Command and Conquer mobile game. EA definitely wants to get into that space, and they're definitely taking notes into how that space is reacting, but nonetheless, he continued by saying, "And it also comes down to changing how we communicate with players. Our entire marketing organization now is moving out of presentation mode and into conversation mode and changing how we interact with players over time." I think that's been one of the key integral problems of EA recently, and that they just don't know who their audience is anymore. They're promoting to the wrong people. Again, going back to E3 of last year, where they just didn't know who their audience was, and they promoted so much on mobile games, and they didn't show us Battlefield 5 the way it should have been shown. I mean, I'm going back a year ago, so some of you guys might not recall, but that E3 press conference of 2018 from EA was just such a big head scratcher to me, and that was such a paramount point of me realizing, wow, EA has completely lost track of sight of who their audience is, and that went to show in games commercially like Battlefield 5 and Anthem how poorly those games did, and unless some serious changes are made, that's just gonna continue over time. Wilson also believes that change in approach should help ensure that games run better and more reliably when they go fully live, and that it'll also help players understand exactly what it is that they're going to be playing and how they're going to be playing both on the day of launch and over time. Quote, "We think that we're in a really good position for this. I think this gets really hard if you don't have a skill to do this, and so we feel very good about it. And over time, we hope that we can lead from the front and help other developers and publishers change the way they do things as well." Now, obviously, this is a part of a conference call for financials and stockholders. Obviously, they're going to construe things and make it so that the company isn't in dire straits right now. Given how Anthem did, given how Battlefield 5 did, given how Star Wars Battlefront 2 did, you just see that these games are not doing as well as they should have. Did Battlefield 5, comparatively speaking to every other game on the market, sell? Okay, sure, but in terms of how a Battlefield game should be doing, it's fallen off greatly. In terms of how big Star Wars Battlefront should be, it's fallen off greatly. In terms of how big Anthem should have been and how big a BioWare release should be, it's fallen off greatly, and EA desperately needs to do something. And as we head into the fall, and we're gonna have new EA game releases like a new Need for Speed, a new Plants vs. Zombies, and most importantly, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it is absolutely paramount that EA understands who their audience is and who they're promoting these games to, because I think for the most part, a lot of the issues from EA comes from a promotional standpoint, not the fundamental game itself. Sure, there are fundamental issues with a game like Anthem, but in the case of Battlefield 5 and now more so with Star Wars Battlefront 2, those games are actually fundamentally fundamentally quite good, but commercially they were complete flops, and they really need to remedy that as soon as possible, and we don't need to see any more disasters. We do know that EA is always going to have their sports titles that they can rely on, and they're always going to be around, but if they want to take their game to the next level, no pun intended, they absolutely need to iron out all of the issues that they have surrounding these big budget releases, because when was the last time do you remember a big budget EA game came out like a Battlefield, like an Anthem, like a BioWare release, like a DICE release, and it just didn't have that negative backlash and negative stigma attached to it? It's been a very long time, and I think a lot of that just stems to how they market these games, how they promote these games, some of the crazy things they say in interviews. And if they could just remedy that and alter that, I think we would at the very least be in a much better position. Alright, a game that wasn't even critically received that well, but commercially it's doing very well, is Days Gone. Days Gone shows that not every game has to be a slam dunk home run, and if you build a quality track record like Sony has done with all of their exclusives on the PlayStation 4, gamers are just gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and probably enjoy your game even so, and even if it's not the biggest IP in the world, they're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt at least trying the game out, and Days Gone has shown that it has sold incredibly well, and here's this. In Japan, the game managed to sell over 114,000 units. Now, for a Japanese release for a more westernized IP like Days Gone, that is incredibly well. That is actually more than double the physical sales numbers achieved by God of War, and that launch is roughly on par with Horizon Zero Dawn's debut. That game sold around 117,000 units, but Days Gone doing close to that, well, that's very good. Of course, games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone probably cater towards a Japanese audience more so than a God of War, but it's no secret that Days Gone is doing incredibly well. Selling as well as it is, and it being the biggest game release of 2019 thus far, I was not expecting that at all. We had Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry 5, a lot of these multi-platform games that are just inherently going to get more hype and more anticipation than a game that's exclusively available on the PlayStation 4. The fact that Days Gone is doing as well as it is, and it being a completely new IP from a studio that doesn't have a massive track record behind it, that is an incredible feat, and I think Sony has done a masterful job in not only building recognition among their first party and their exclusives, but also learning how to market these games and promoting these games. I don't know if you guys were aware, but I saw Days Gone everywhere. They really put the promotional muscle behind the game, and even it being a new IP, even though they probably had an inclination that, hey, probably not going to be at the level of a God of War or a Spider-Man, but we're still committed to it. We're promoting this game, and we're going to make sure it does as good as it possibly can. And now you see, even though the critical reception hasn't been absolutely strong, it looks like fan reception has been much stronger, and it looks like a lot of people are actually satisfied with the experience that Days Gone offered. And I can definitely say that I'm on that same boat with you guys. I've enjoyed my time with Days Gone. Again, I assess the fact that it's not a perfect game, but it has a lot of quality to it, and I can easily say that it was worth a purchase. And lastly, I do want to give you guys a heads up that the Kinda Funny Games Showcase will be held at E3 2019, and it is set for June 10th. Now, you guys might be wondering, is anything major going to be shown at the Kinda Funny Games Showcase? Well, actually, they do show off some major things. The 2018 Showcase featured over 60 titles, mainly from independent studios, as well as some higher profile announcements, like the localization of Lapis X Labyrinth, the official Western title and release window of Judgment, so you know Kinda Funny and Sega are in bed together, so maybe we'll see some sort of Sega information, Persona 5 Royal. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but that's definitely something that could happen. We got the reveal of Conan Unconquered, not the major game releases, but there are definitely some interesting games at the Kinda Funny Games Showcase, and it will be held June 10th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, so expect some interesting announcements there. Again, you're gonna see some quality indies, you're gonna see some interesting titles. And to give you guys the full rundown for E3 2019, June 9th will bring Microsoft and Bethesda. June 10th is PC Gaming Show, Limited Run Games, Ubisoft, as well as the Kinda Funny Games Showcase, and then it's being rounded out by Square Enix. Unfortunately, Sony's not going to have their own press conference, and EA's not having their own press conference either, so E3 is going to be a little bit lighter this year, but hopefully we get some remarkable announcements nonetheless, and I imagine that we will. Personally speaking, I'm really excited to see what Square Enix brings to the table, and Ubisoft. I think for Square Enix specifically, it's going to be a very important time, given that Kingdom Hearts 3 is now in the rearview mirror. All eyes are focused on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and hopefully we'll hear more on that relatively soon. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, after the fumbled release of Anthem, it looks like Electronic Arts is going to make some major changes in how they promote and release games. Days Gone is doing incredibly well, and in Japan, it's outpaced the sales of God of War, and the Kinda Funny Games Showcase is set for June 10th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Expect some exciting announcements as a part of that. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.